Hello and welcome to the official Riptide podcast, or the Afterparty, if you will.
Yeah.
I have fallen into a trap, listeners, where I'm used to having my own show. So I'm started doing an intro, as you can hear.
Yeah.
But I don't need to do this because I'm joined by a professional. I'm joined by Adam from Hardest Part of the Ring.
Professional. Wow. Yeah, well, the same here. I obviously host Hardest Part of the Ring, and I'm used to running things, so this could be an interesting battle.
Yeah.
Both trying to take over and take charge, but
passive-aggressive battle egos.
But
we're too English, we won't be actually any aggression.
Yeah, that's true. We are very polite. I must reveal that we are in MJ's flat as well, so he is the host.
Yeah.
Literally, he is hosting me. So
home field advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, we've been asked to provide a Riptide podcast going forward with Josh and Tom, and I should say our plan is to actually get together for these podcasts whenever Josh and Tom are available. But generally it'll be Adam and myself. However, even though this is the first episode and we wanted it to all be smooth and professional and clicking.
Yeah, stars you mean to go on?
Yeah, that couldn't happen because all our schedules conflicted. So.
Yeah, mostly my fault. Mostly the other guys coming up with dates and me saying that I couldn't do them.
Well, let's blame them, because then when I'm talking to them, I'll blame you.
Okay, fine. Mostly Josh and Tom's fault.
Yeah. But no, so for this episode, Adam and I are going to talk and introduce the show and so forth, and then I'm going to cut to a separate roundtable with Josh and Tom through the power of editing. And we also got a little interview coming up, which I'll save who it is for later, even though there's a good chance it'll be in the tagline for the podcast.
Exciting.
Yeah.
As it is the start of the podcast, and maybe just to prove to the listeners what a whiz you are at editing, you could edit in a little hello from Josh and Tom now.
Piss off! Fuck you.
Yeah.
Sorry, MJ. Sorry. But nice to prove that they're actually on the pod for the listeners.
Yeah. So I suppose the first thing to do is to explain who we are and why we're even doing this. Not why are we even doing this, it sounds like we're under the cosh or something. It would be who we are, why we're interested in Riptide. So we already mentioned Adam has another show called The Hardest Part of the Ring.
Yeah.
Where you and your... Well, I suppose I should let you pitch it. Why am I doing it?
It'd be quite interesting to hear you pitch it. Yes.
For nobodies. Wasting my time.
That is pretty much true when it started, MJ, but now we are somebodies.
You're grizzled vets.
Yeah. It's myself and three of my friends, three of my ex-colleagues used to work with a long time ago, and we used to talk about wrestling, and we used to watch wrestling together, and we used to send each other lots of messages about wrestling. And we floated the idea of doing a podcast, and then we got carried away with that idea, and we started it in 2017. And we mostly review pay-per-views, but we also do the odd quiz. We've had interviews and things like that. And in fact, one of the first interviews that we did was with Josh from Riptide. Myself and John went to his house and had a good old chat. And the podcast is still going, 57 episodes deep, and the listenership's growing and growing, and it's just been a lot of fun. And we've had Josh on 3 times now. So obviously we did okay, because he's asked us to get involved in this. And here we are.
Nice.
What about you, MJ?
Me, I have a show which covers all forms of entertainment called You Total Cult, which at the time of recording is due to finish quite soon, but there's a few more episodes to come.
Have you signed an exclusivity contract with Riptide? That's what's happened.
Yes, WWE can book me, but they need 6 weeks' notice.
Yeah, so you've got the higher tier contract, and I'm on one where I can appear on other podcasts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've sold out, and you've kept it real.
Yeah.
No, my show's ending for other reasons, but because it's an all-entertainment show, one of the things that came up in it is wrestling, because I have a lifelong love of professional wrestling, followed it since I was about 10. I think everyone dips out a bit when they're a teenager.
Yeah.
But then, just as I was like hitting 15 and 16 is when the Attitude Era came in, and that's when it got cool again and popular.
Yeah.
So I dipped back in. So I only ever really dipped out for 1 year. But
oh wow,
most people drop out for a while. For me, it was only a 1 year abandonment, and then I was like, oh, this is cool again.
Yeah, I think I dropped out for 15 years.
Well, there we go,
or something like that. Yeah.
That just means I'm more burnt out at this point. You've got more passion in you.
I'm jealous of all the people who kept watching. And in fact, doing the podcast, a lot of the time I have massive gaps in my knowledge, and luckily the other guys didn't have as big a gaps or kept watching it. Anybody who watched all of the Attitude Era, I am extremely jealous of, because I'm sort of going back and watching it over the last few years. But I'm very jealous. And in fact, I must say, MJ has a Papa Shango t-shirt on right now. And anyone who listens to Hardest Part of the Ring will know that Papa Shango is one of my absolute favourites. So that is really cool.
And I can tell you this.
Sorry, I just noticed.
This wasn't intentionally thrown on for that reason.
It was. Right, Adam's coming over. What shall I wear?
No, it's because I've put on loads of weight recently. This is one of my big loose t-shirts I can still fit in.
Fine. Cool. Sorry, I've thrown us.
That's all right. But yes, I have a long time love of professional wrestling. And on my show, You Total Cult, I've been fortunate enough to interview Josh as well and several wrestlers over the last few years. And it just feels like the wrestling content on that show has got bigger and bigger, which I feel a bit bad for my listeners because not everyone cares about wrestling as much as they care about comic books or films or music, which I also cover. But at the same time, it's a passion of mine, it's my podcast, and I have access to interview people involved in it, so I'd be foolish not to.
That's a good thing about podcasting. You can do what you like.
Yeah, but as that podcast rekindling has grown, I think it's caught a little bit of attention here and there, including with Josh. Mm-hmm. So again, when he approached you, he also approached me and was like, "We should sort something out." And here we are.
Here we are
discussing the wonderful world of lycra and baby oil.
Yeah, which is how I'm dressed. By the way, that's how I turned up to the interview. Slipped off the sofa a few times, but that's baby oil for you.
I do wonder how they pick people up sometimes when they cover it.
I often wonder that. I think that's the thing I'd struggle with most if I was going to be a wrestler, is the oil and the sweat. Just and the sort of nuzzling your face into somebody's armpit.
That was the Nasty Boys finishing move.
Well, exactly, yeah.
The pit stop.
Yeah, I guess you just get used to it quickly.
Yeah. I don't want to do it as an interview, but just to set the scene a bit.
Yeah.
How did you find out about Riptide in the first place?
Found out about Riptide through Brett, who's also on the podcast, who now has a heavy involvement with Riptide, as he's their art director and designs all their posters and merch and things like that. He used to go to a lot of smaller shows in Worthing and indeed to some in Brighton as well. And I think he heard about the first Riptide show, Beers, Bands and Wrestling, and didn't go to it. And realised what a mistake that was, so went to the second and loved it. And then the third one was coming up, which was Point Break, I believe.
Yep.
I'm wearing my Point Break t-shirt now.
The show I named.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. There you go. My only claim to wrestling fame, I named a show.
That's good trivia.
I was watching the film Point Break, and I tweeted Riptide just being like, hey, if you're doing your pun-based names, you've got to do one called Point Break. And the next one was called Point Break.
Oh, there you go. Did you get any royalties?
No, I got a free t-shirt.
Oh, I had to pay for this one. Yeah, so Brett suggested we went along to it, and we all did. I think all four of us from the pod, and obviously blown away. The main event being Matt Riddle, Keith Lee and Jimmy Havoc in the 2 out 3 Falls tables match, or something along those lines. Amazing main event, and obviously incredible talent involved, all three of which now have gone on to sign rather large contracts, and was immediately hooked. And I think anybody who's been to Riptide will say the same, and if they don't, they must be lying or trying to play it cool, because they just do a phenomenal job in pretty much all areas. And one of my worries about doing this podcast was not wanting to sort of just blow smoke up Riptide's arse, so to put it, or just be super positive all the time. And I will try and be critical if I think I need to be, but it was amazing, and it continues to be amazing. And I think I've missed the second night of Brighton Spirit and the first night of the Championship tournament, and apart from that, I've been to every show since.
Well, I've only missed one, which was the Blackwater, the Halloween show, which is a shame because Halloween is my favourite time of year, and I love Riptide, and it would have been the ultimate show to be at for me.
Yeah. But, what were you doing instead? Trick or treating?
Girlfriend's birthday.
See, now the listeners know you're such a lovely guy as well.
Well, I am a lovely guy because I didn't say the age. I just said birthday.
Well, that's true.
But yeah, so I heard about Riptide because I'd seen the poster up and it had CCK on it. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. So I just found the Twitter account, and before their first show, I just said, do you want to meet up, do a podcast interview, appear on the show, get a bit of promo, and we met. And then I've just started going to the shows, and they are brilliant. I already was following Progress in particular, and ICW and RevPro a bit, but I found the thing I like about Riptide in particular, and is not just the quality of the shows, which is phenomenal, which is going to happen when you put on certain talent and let them play to their strengths. I really like there is a commitment to sort of gender equality or I guess a social consciousness, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, I know is a genuine commitment to
Yeah.
peace, love, and hippiness.
Exactly. That is something they do fantastically well, and it genuinely feels like anybody is welcome at the Riptide shows. And in fact, you see that you get a wide variety of people, all shapes and forms and ages and everything like that, and it is great to see. Yeah.
So there you go.
I love Riptide.
We've kissed their arse too much.
Let's talk about the shit things about Riptide.
Well,
Josh, Tom, no, harsh.
I would. Someone else tweeted it. This will keep it balanced. Someone else tweeted this. I'm not taking credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said, "I'm straight edge. I don't drink, and I'm disappointed that all the wrestling themed beers are all alcoholic. Why can't there be a wrestling themed soft drink?" Good point.
Very good point.
Let's get on it.
Yeah. I mean, there really isn't much to say or to complain about because it's just all going swimmingly.
Nice water themed.
Yeah,
note.
Proud of that.
Well, let's dive deeper.
Oh, God.
Yeah, two can play this game, sir. What did you think of Deep Sex? That was so at the time of recording, this show was 2 days ago. I feel like we have to give it a mention on the first show.
Yeah, definitely. Really enjoyed it. The first thing I wanted to point out was how the sort of the changes that they'd made in terms of the platforms around the rings, the viewing area at the back behind the crowd, the sort of raised area, the things that they've done to try and improve line of sight for a lot of the crowd. That was excellent. I'm lucky to be fairly tall as it is, but I got to stand up at the back and just have a really great view. So that was cool. The show itself was very good. Highlight for me was probably Candy Floss versus TK Cooper. Mm-hmm. And, looking at the card before the event, I wouldn't have guessed that. I just thought that match, one, it just really got the crowd going. But TK is somebody, you've had him on your podcast, haven't you? Mm-hmm. So go back and listen to that episode, listeners.
While the pod's still up.
Do
it quick.
He's somebody who I sort of haven't really been massively into over the years. Not for any sort of negative reasons. It's just there are a lot of other people who stand out to me more. But recently I've sort of begun to appreciate that he is actually very talented. Mm-hmm. He is brilliantly funny and charismatic in the ring, and he does all that sort of stuff quite often in the first half of matches, as he sort of did with Candy Floss, where he plays his role before putting on a showcase of what a good wrestler he is. And I think he did that on Friday night. And Candy Floss, again, definitely the best Candy Floss match I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably because Riptide gave her the chance to put that match on. A lot of the times in other promotions, and obviously on things like NXT UK, and it's totally fine that they're doing this and it's giving her an opportunity, but she's might be there to put somebody else over, or she's having short matches. The fact that Riptide let her have this long match with TK Cooper and show that she is also a very good wrestler was brilliant. And I just thought the crowd really got into it. It was a brilliant atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, obviously when you have like a big barnstormer of a match, sometimes the crowd can be a little bit flat after that. And I think there were a couple of moments where the crowd was slightly flat during the event on Friday. But as always, it was a great show. Mm-hmm. No bad matches. And I was delighted to see Mark Haskins down at Riptide, even though he's a baddie.
He did certainly fool you. I saw your reaction.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's going to watch on demand because it's a brand new show, but there's something that happens. It implies one thing and does something else. Yes.
Yeah. It's very hard to talk about.
Yes.
But yeah, what about you? What did you think?
Overall, very strong show. No weak matches at all, which is always the sign of a great night out, I feel. Mm-hmm. I would agree, TK and Candy had the match of the night. I thought it just mixed the technical and the power parts really well. Mm-hmm. Pacing was just on point and the crowd were reacting to everything. Spike and Boar were great. I thought that was a really odd matching, but odd pair up on paper, but it really worked. It plays to the strengths of Spike can be as mean as he wants to a sort of a vicious animal type character because he's got that anger that's building the whole way through. So it works well that when he explodes and fights back, Trevay's getting his just desserts. So
yeah.
So I thought that was excellent as well.
Great thing about that match is that it was really boosted by the video that Riptide put out before the event with Spike's promo, and obviously a Spike promo is always going to be good. And that's something that they did, for the TK and Candy match as well. There's some really nice videos before this.
One thing, actually, I will say with Deep Six, I do have one criticism of the show. I really enjoyed the opening match of Jordan Breaks versus Curtis Chapman. Well, I wouldn't have had that as the opening match, because I thought it's a slow build of technical versus technical until sort of Chapman's becoming shitty.
Yeah.
And they start doing then. Well, I don't want to ruin the spot. There's a bit involving the neck bridging, which was great.
Yeah.
And the crowd really exploded for it, and it was great. But because it's a technical match, I wouldn't have had it as the first one, because it felt like it took a while for the crowd to warm up to it. So I would have had that as like the second one, maybe.
Yeah. What would you have had as first? Just to put you on the spot.
Maybe Session Moth, because you're going to get that instant reaction with the music and the dancing.
Yeah.
So
Get
from the get-go, the crowd is pumped. Equally, I'm sure there's a very good reason I haven't thought of why they've done it. The card is designed in a set order for a set reason. So.
Yeah. Session Moth probably wasn't there yet. She was probably down in Wetherspoons. I think that is legit. What quite often happens on some indie shows, isn't it? That the card is subject to change because people arrive late, not because they're drinking in the local Wetherspoons, but because their car's broken down or the train's late or whatever it is. So, but that's speculation, of course. But
of course, we had some debuts at Deep Six as well. We had Rocky Mac.
Yeah,
I've seen him once before at Anarchy Pro, and the man just drips charisma.
He does.
Funny fella.
Prayer time with Rocky Mac was very amusing.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a great showing for him. Really caught people's attention.
Yeah,
and we also had Ashmore.
Yeah,
the hip star Ashmore.
Yeah,
or Damon Moser, as I know.
Ashmore against Cara Noir, and again, without going into too much detail, that was just a brutal start. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Cara Noir is someone who I imagine is going to get talked about a lot on this podcast, because I don't think there's anybody who doesn't rate him. I imagine it's going to be a huge year, 2019, for him. I really hope that he gets the opportunity to go and work at some other, maybe slightly bigger promotions. And he is a firm favourite of mine. I was a little bit, I think I can say this, I was a little bit gutted that he didn't get to do his full entrance, because it is the most beautiful thing in wrestling at the moment, but totally understand why, and it worked brilliantly with the storyline and the narrative of the match.
Yeah. And have you seen Ashmore before?
I have. I was saying to John from the podcast, who was at Riptide, who I was standing with, that I think I've seen Ashmore fairly early days of Progress, I think. And at the time, I perhaps wasn't as much of a connoisseur as I am nowadays, and just saw him as sort of a bit of a generic wrestler.
To be fair, depending on when you saw him, he used to be a bit of a generic wrestler. Just his whole thing was, I've got a big beard.
Yeah.
And he, over the last few years, has changed it to being like a sort of Shoreditch type hipster.
Okay.
Like he's in a team called the Croft Beating Company.
Oh, nice.
So it's all sort of hipstery type.
Yeah. Okay.
So he has reinvented himself over the last few years, but I think he's much better for it. So.
And paid off. It was good.
So Deep Six, very solid show. I'm looking forward to the next one. Next one, of course, is the Rumble. Oh, my favourite. I love a Rumble.
Yeah. Last year's Rumble was honestly one of the best Rumbles I've ever seen in any promotion.
Yeah.
And to get to see it live in a small little venue like that close up. I haven't watched it back on demand. I didn't notice anything go wrong, really. I can't remember. I just remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. And then every time there was somebody else coming out, the pop that Viper got, so many great moments. Obviously, 2 Meter Peter, security guard, featuring, I think it's okay to say a couple of spoilers for this because it's been out for a while. Yeah. It was phenomenal. And there's a lot of pressure, Josh and Tom. There is a lot of pressure. The difficult second album. How are you going to do your difficult second Rumble? Because it was amazing. It
was. They got the perfectly balanced with the surprise entrance and the people who the crowd are familiar with getting in parts of their gimmicks or shticks at the right moments, with keeping a competitive Royal Rumble with talented people.
Yeah.
And it was like a nail biting finish as well. So
it was.
So yeah, a lot to live up to. We've built it up too much.
I know. Well, it's going to be good.
Right, Josh, Tom, welcome to my flat. Or should I say this high-tech studio, of course.
Yep, I can't believe it's like living in the future. It's unbelievable. A little bit more steampunk than I would expect. A few more valves. than maybe I'd expect. But other than that, it's lots of sort of black glass, heads-up displays, and sort of neon lighting, clean lines. Very impressed, mate.
Very nice. Don't even know where to go for that.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, you as well, Tom. This is Josh and Tom from RIPTIDE Wrestling. I would like to think any listeners to the After Party podcast would know who you are, but maybe they don't. And maybe they've got to this point in the episode going, why do they keep talking about this Josh and Dom? Who are they? Who are you? Define yourselves. You.
Hello, I am Josh, and I run RIPTIDE with Tom here.
And I'm Tom, and I help Josh run RIPTIDE.
I guess I just want like a super brief recap of RIPTIDE Wrestling. And I'd say to listeners, anyone curious, we'll probably do a whole episode about it down the line. This is just a casual introduction. How did RIPTIDE first come together for you guys?
So it was one of those things where me and Tom had started kind of hanging out a bit more around and about wrestling, sort of acquaintances through music, and then one day I kind of worked out that there was a possibility that we could do wrestling in Brighton maybe, and no one was doing wrestling in Brighton, so let's do some wrestling in Brighton basically, and Tom came on the crazy wild ride.
I did dig out the initial pitch that Josh made me in 2017. So we'd been going to these wrestling shows a fair bit and chatting wrestling and music, and Josh messaged me on Facebook one day and literally his words are, I think we should book a wrestling show in Brighton. I'm super serial. And at the time, I play in a band. I work in full time, and at the time I was the communications officer for the local Brighton Hove Green Party. And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's that's going to take up a lot of time. Where are you thinking about doing it? And like you mentioned, the Haunt as a potential place for it to go.
Yeah.
It's too small. Yeah, it is too small. But yeah, like I guess it's a case of I knew Josh through music. I'd sort of hung out with him a bit. What I didn't know about Josh is that if he gets something in his head, like that's it, full speed ahead, we're going to end up doing it. And then when he turned to me and said, we've got a venue booked, we've got the dates, we've got a few wrestlers, then I had to get involved. That's how I came on board. I believe it was down the beach. I think we were down just before we went to the Horn. Actually, funnily enough, there was a wrestling party in Brighton where people were dancing to wrestling themes and playing wrestling games. And I think that's where I sort of said, right, yeah, I definitely want in on this, and let's make this happen. Even though he'd already started to make it happen anyway, so right. Jumping on board, basically like backtracking. No, I'm in. Get me in. Yeah.
I nearly went to that Haunt party, and I thought it's going to go one of two ways, so I didn't bother. And now I feel like I've missed out. Who knows?
Yeah,
connections
man.
I could have made.
We met Mark Slowey, our fantastic physio, and also ringside medical care worker there, doing an incredible Eddie Guerrero. We met a now departed talent liaison, Amy, of Nikki and Amy, doing a fantastic Naomi at that night. It was fantastic. Yeah.
God damn it, I blew it.
You blew it, mate.
I didn't blow it because we've got a RIPTIDE podcast, which I'm doing. And
right.
That's my next question to you both. Why do you want a RIPTIDE podcast? How has this come about from your perspective?
I think it's one of those things where we want to provide some kind of intermediate content between the shows, like with the feedback that we get from people in terms of it being something that they really look forward to in a month, and it being something that they miss when it's not around. It'd be great to provide that. And like me personally, like most of the media that I consume at any given time is a podcast probably about wrestling, so that's maybe something that we should do if people want. I think it might be good for people and maybe good for us. We'll see.
I love talking about wrestling. I love thinking about wrestling. I work a full-time job, as I mentioned, and sometimes I can be guilty of just thinking about wrestling.
Actually, I can say my very first week at the company I'm at, I was wearing a Spike Trivet shirt, and I was walking past me, I didn't know anyone in the office, and she stopped me. She goes, "Oh yeah, I was at the RIPTIDE show the other day. My boyfriend dragged me to it. I thought he was great." And I was like, there you go, the power of a Trivet shirt.
Hey, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good thing she didn't slap me and call me a Tory bastard or something.
Yeah,
but
I mean, quite.
He's a memorable dickhead, isn't he? Yeah.
He's a memorable dickhead, and he's, according to him, I've got, what is it,
A smug moustache.
smug
Yes, very
moustache.
smug. If you can't see it, listener, which you can't, is that he's got very smug quality to his moustache.
I change the style of my moustache constantly, and yet somehow the smugness stays there. It's my core value.
It's inherent, dear listener.
Yeah. Right, let's get away from my smug moustache. Deep Six. It's the show you've just finished. At time of recording, it was less than a week ago. How did it go from your perspectives?
Overall, I would say it was what it was. Cooler heads prevailed. I can't remember any more Stone Cold cliches.
I was wondering, you sound quite down on it.
No, I was really, really happy overall with how it went. It was the first show back after a while. We had quite a few core team members having departed or away on holiday or other working environments. So we had the aforementioned Nikki and Amy, who did our stage management through, I think, some of 2017. Summer 2017 and the whole of 2018 were incredible assets to us. Thank you so much, Nikki and Amy. Just fantastic. It just so happened that with work commitments and whatnot, they couldn't commit anymore. But we had Slick Lombardo coming in, and Danielle, who'd been working on the team already, got a bump up in the structure of the stage management and talent liaison roles. They were awesome. They were absolutely awesome. So that was great. We did miss Lauren Carnell as a timekeeper this time around. So looking forward to having you back, Lauren. And we also were missing Rosa Rose, who is on tour in Korea singing at the moment because she's a fantastic singer. So
You had some no-name replacing her.
Some no-name luchador gimmick, I don't know. No, we had a fantastic guest announcer. But there was, apprehension going into it. We didn't have operations manager David Bevan, my father, like a big angry walking gooseberry, going around. He's like a cross between a man, a gooseberry, and a white blood cell. Charging around, sorting things out. So he wasn't around this show, and that was managed wonderfully by my brother, yoking up the family members, fulfilling that role directly. Previously had some work as senior gunge technician night 2 of the Brighton Championship tournament. That is a role that spilled, as it were, into day 3 of the Brighton Championship tournament. Despite no more gunge being needed in the show, there was still some gunge that needed dealing with. The whole team pulled together in a way that was really, really pleasing to me.
It was a lot of fun to work a show where our core roster was really the attraction as well.
Absolutely.
I think everyone pulled through, everyone came through, and everyone excelled. TK Cooper and Candy Floss, generally regarded by the crowd, I think, as the match of the evening. And they've been regulars of ours for a long time. And really great to see them really pull it out and have a cracking match. Yeah,
people coming away with Cara Noir as their new favourite wrestler and things like that. It's fantastic to see. And this is it. We've got a guy. We've got our own champion that has to close the show, unless you've got something like a Rumble or something like that, and he's a guy that's wrestled. I think it's not quite every show. He could make our 3rd show, but other than that, every show. We outdrew last year's February event, Deep Six, this time round, with in inverted commas our guys, which is incredibly, incredibly satisfying as a promoter and kind of as a fan of these wrestlers. To be honest with you,
and of course you were up against competition for a big match for another company. On the same, it's just a fact.
It's true. That's listen, Rev Pro, Pac, Osprey, York Hall. That was not a clash that it was bad timing, and we tried to move it, don't get me wrong, but I think that maybe only took about 10 10 people out of our draw, simply for the fact that, like, as soon as it was going to be Ospreay that Pac was wrestling, that show was going to sell out on a national, if not international, level. So, you know, a good consideration of the people that, like, you know, of our catchment, as it were, just would have never had the option to go to York Hall because the tickets would have been long sold. Don't get me wrong, 10 tickets is something that we want to sell. Yes, do you know what I mean? But yeah, a testament to the scene, a testament to the drawing power of that match on a national level, I would say.
What is it they say about, like, high tides raising all the ships, though, as well? Because I think there's a lot of people who missed out on going to wrestling that evening and then would have been talking about wrestling and wanted something to go to. And I think, you know, there's plenty of people online singing our praises and saying, like, oh, if you can't come to Rev Pro, then you should definitely come and see Riptide. And actually, I think there was a good portion of the audience that were there for the first time. We've got several people on Twitter mentioning that, yeah, it's the first time they'd ever attended a Riptide show.
That's a good point, actually.
Which is awesome. Like,
I hadn't even thought about that.
Well, I think you've covered that very nicely. I'm glad you enjoyed Deep Six. I'm not going to tell you what Adam and I thought, but you'll have to listen back to the podcast for our views.
I bloody will.
Yeah. It's going to be the last podcast, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Considering how light the envelope I just slid you under the table was, probably, yeah.
Well, you gave me the last marshmallow.
I did,
I mean, I bought the marshmallows.
You bought the marshmallows.
So, I don't know where that leaves us. Now, we have got several ideas for features for this show moving forward. One of them is something I'm going to call Pitch Perfect, where on the spot, when we're all at a round table, I am going to throw a gimmick at everyone, and you have to come up with a wrestling character name, finishing move, and entrance theme. So if I was to say Milkman, you'd have to come up with the character. Now, this one we've done in advance because it's the first show and I didn't want to mess everyone around and we're not all together. So I thought the best way to start this was actually to tailor it to yourselves, to get a feel of you. So I am going to ask both of us, and separately Josh and Tom, if you had a wrestling character, what would your name be? What would your gimmick be? What would your theme song be? What would your finishing move be?
Now, I did know about this before, and actually I'm starting to think that the off-the-cuff question I may have dealt with better, because it's one of those things that you just end up thinking about.
Well, secretly, I suspect every wrestling fan has already spent years thinking about this.
Well, here's the thing. I'll be completely honest. I have spent years thinking about this, but my characters and gimmicks, it's a tag team, and whenever you're doing your build a wrestler, I always used to build a tag team, and they were Chip Everest and Troy Gravity. And they would wear black and white, and obviously Chip Everest was like 8 foot tall, who can go, very athletic still, but strong, but you know, has some pace. And then obviously Troy Gravity, and this was way before, you know, the man that Gravity forgot, Pac, Neville, came around. He was obviously a high flyer. And those guys have just been my guys for life. So whenever I used to think about this kind of thing, I just think of those guys. So when you said, "What would you do?" I was like, "Oh God, I don't know. I'm not Chip Everest. I could never be him, and I'm not Troy Gravity.
I'm pretty tall.
I'm quite tall." So what I started thinking about was the kind of wrestler that I'd want to be, and I did sort of consider coming up with some sort of silly gimmicks. But actually, I thought, I said this in episode 1 of our podcast, and I've said it in most episodes, how I'm a massive fan of Mark Haskins, in particular his intensity. And I was always a fan as a kid of The Ultimate Warrior, particularly his entrance and his run-in, and the fact that he was totally jacked up on who knows what. I didn't realise that as a kid. So I would definitely have that kind of approach. I'd be a guy who would sprint into the ring. I'd be a guy who doesn't wait for the bell, just starts battering my opponent, works very fast, cardio on point, just go for the whole match. So I don't know if this is just a really disappointing answer, MJ, but it's sort of, there's no specific gimmick. It's just that I am intense as fuck. Okay?
Well, that's fine, but we need a name.
But this is the thing, I didn't think of a name. I don't even
could be
know
the
if
Red
you wrote
Bull.
that down. That could be the Red Bull. Yeah, maybe we need listeners to get in touch and tell me what I should be. That's a good way of
beautiful.
Getting over the
I was
fact.
going to suggest that people could tell us what their name, gimmick, song and move would be with the hashtag RIPTIDE Afterparty.
Oh, well, yeah,
But
do
you
that.
can suggest things to Adam as well.
Yeah, suggest what my name should be and try to be kind.
It'll be better than the Red Bull, I'm sure.
Yeah. In terms of my finisher, I've tried to think about what would be best for the character, so it's not necessarily my favourite finisher. I actually think just a perfectly executed spear would work really well, because I've talked about the intensity and the pace. Perhaps, when the match is nearing the end, I'd go all the way back up the ramp and then just sprint down the ramp and then just dive into the most perfect spear, and that would be enough.
And if you did it on the ramp and they were stood outside and you put them into the ring post, that would be the hardest part of the ring.
It would. Available on Spotify, Acast, and everywhere else. So that's pretty much it. In terms of music, I could probably come up with something that's a bit more quirky for this guy, but in terms of what I always thought would make good entrance music, obviously WWE wouldn't allow it, but I'm just going to be on the indies. I'm never going to make WWE. It would probably be Invalid Litter Dept by At the Drive-In.
Nice.
Because I always think what makes a really good entrance song is something that has like a little... like a pre-intro, like almost like Stone Cold's Broken Glass or something like that, where you have that little sound where it's like, oh shit, it's him, and then the song kicks in. And that song by At the Drive-In has that with the little drum and the hey, and then it's just ferocious. And me sprinting down that ramp would work very well with that, I think.
Well, now I hope your character has an afro to go with the
Yeah, and in fact maybe a microphone to chuck up in the air and catch in a really cool way. So that's sort of like a big shambles of various different bits and bobs, not necessarily that well thought of, which is, I think, what this podcast is going to be.
Yes.
MJ, I'm sure as you said, you've thought about this since you were a kid, so I expect this to be perfectly laid out and presented.
All right, I'll do that. Before I give you my answer, though, because you mentioned creating video game versions.
Yeah.
Well, something I'd forgotten I ever did until you said that. I had an Irish character who I called Donnie Brooke.
Okay.
Wow. He was always up for a fight.
Yeah.
And I just like to think somewhere out there could use that in the real world.
Yeah.
But preferably they are Irish, so that it's not a racial stereotype.
No, okay.
But yeah, I just really like the name Donnie Brooke.
Donnie Brooke's pretty good, yeah.
It's not bad, is it?
That is good.
But I said this as a joke to Josh when I first met him, but I've really doubled down on it now.
Okay.
So my character is going to be the Brighton Brawler. Ooh. Based on one of my favourite wrestlers, the Brooklyn Brawler.
Of course.
Of which you'll see two little toys up there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, so I'm going to do the Brighton Brawler, and he is just a shambles of a wrestler in ripped up Brighton clothing and a flat cap. And he can't have a cigar, that's Brooklyn Brawler, and that's not right in this stage, so he's going to have a vape.
Yeah, of course.
And
what flavour of vape do you reckon he'd have? What's Brighton?
Pain.
Very Brighton.
Pain flavour.
Oh, nice.
Broken glass flavour. That's the,
yeah.
But he's going to come out to the song "Rumble in Brighton" by the Stray Cats.
Okay.
And it's just a rockabilly type riff, and
perfect.
He'll come out rocking to that, and he's going to throw his haymakers around. And I think his finishing move, I couldn't come up with a great name for it. Maybe listeners can help me with that. I went with Peerless, as in P-I-E-R, Peerless.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's going to be a solid punch to the balls, but he's going to put on a brass knuckle first. So imagine that.
Yeah.
It's just when the ref's not looking, the brass knucks go on, he drops to his knees, and an upper nut right up there.
Okay. Yeah, that's terrifying.
It's a tough move to recover from.
Yeah, wow.
In any environment.
Unfortunately, though, whilst you're getting those brass knuckles out and you're trying to slip them on, I'm in with the spear.
Well,
because as we've discussed, I'm very, very pacey and fast.
Well,
so I would have spotted that, ran to the top of the ramp, ran back down again, spear, it's all over.
That's fine, because if the Brighton Brawler is anything like the Brooklyn Brawler, he's supposed to lose all the time.
Yeah.
And then he can go out for a nice vegan meal somewhere.
Perfect.
In the many places of Brighton that's possible.
Yeah.
So, through the magic of editing, let's cut to Josh and Tom. What would they create?
Now look, lads, there's one other thing we still need to cover, and this is crucial. What wrestling characters would you be if you were wrestling characters? I need to know your name, your gimmick, your finishing move, and your entrance thing. And I'm going to give you a moment, Josh, because I notice I keep naturally turning to my left, and instead I'm going to turn to my right.
Cool.
Tom.
I was trying to think of what the answer to this would be, and Gemma, my partner, and I were watching a documentary on Netflix about flat earthers, and they are the most annoying bastards. It took all of about 2.5 minutes to get me shouting at the television screen in a true 1970s World of Sport old lady shouting at the villain kind of way. Just a real guttural, visceral annoyance at just a complete lack of any kind of debating or evidence, and it's so infuriating. And like, there are these sort of gimmicks that are, you know, crazed environmentalists like Daniel Bryan, if you remember CJ Parker, the old Juice Robinson gimmick in NXT, and it's sort of like, oh, they've got a point but they're taking it too far. These guys don't have a point and they're taking it too far. And like, as I mentioned, I used to work for the Green Party, so Caroline Lucas, one of the probably the most like upstanding politician in the country, you know, fights the good fight, will always speak truth to power, and yet every day at the office you get people calling you and complaining about chemtrails. So they think that these, big chemtrail is flying around and poisoning our minds for some reason to make us subservient, as if we weren't subservient enough to begin with. These guys, man, yeah. So,
well, you're getting angry again. So what's the gimmick?
See, it's hot. Yeah. So I'd be a flat earther. Yeah,
right,
just a full-on conspiracy nutter.
Okay, so what's the name for this character?
Matt Bertha, the flat earther. There you go.
Matt Bertha.
There you go.
Matt Bertha, the flat earther, and what is Matt Bertha's finishing move?
Flatliner.
Oh, I like it.
Probably theme tune would be the Earth Song. I mean, that's a good theme tune anyway, right? Like everyone would sing that. Yeah.
That's
it's long. Mate. Got a lot of time to slowly walk to the ring.
So if we have any aspiring grapplers who are in training and need something other than bloke in pants, then or indeed a lady as well, yeah. This is not a gender-specific gimmick. But if it was, I'd envisioned it as me doing it. So.
You've just said how much conspiracy nuts bug you, and you've also just welcomed them to get in contact if they want to be performers.
Performers, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, also AJ Styles, if you're out there, hit us up on the DMs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Josh, then top that.
So I would be. I want to get the name. I haven't got a name for him, like a name. So I'm just trying to think of that.
Well, Adam didn't have a name either, and I did say to listeners, maybe you can come up with one, and you could use the hashtag RIPTIDE Afterparty to suggest it. And so maybe we can do this for Josh as well.
If you could come up with a name for mine, and this is something that me and Tom have spoken about in the past as well, so I can't take all the credit on this one. But the centrist dad
it was on my list.
so
timely.
Out I come.
Yes, indeed.
The centrist dad with, you know, sporting a nice dad bod, and basically the thing out I come to the Top Gear theme tune. maybe some blue jeans, pretty washed out blue jeans. You know, with the shirt and all of this, and basically the centrist dad would prevent the baby faces from thwarting the heels in sort of relatively sort of shitty, sort of nondescript ways that sort of would mean that the heels could never, the faces that have been prevented from thwarting the heels wouldn't really have too much of a case against centrist dads. He'd never get any comeuppance from the baby faces, but he would get his eventual comeuppance from the heels that he allowed to run rampant with his passive obstructions of the baby faces in their plight against the heels, basically.
I'm now hoping your finishing move is called passive obstruction.
The finishing move is the fence sit-out powerbomb.
Yeah. So it's the premise of someone, so Sexsmith and Trivet are having it out, and then out comes centrist dad to proclaim that they're both as bad as each other.
Yes, and then gets mauled by Trivet's goons.
again, lowly enhancement talent fodder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good that between the four of us, none of us have pitched anyone who can actually conquer the wrestling world.
Yeah.
Adams is probably going to do the best, but I feel like he's going to die of a heart attack at 30.
I did feel like this does highlight how difficult it is to come up with a genuinely likeable good guy character, because everyone immediately goes to who's bloody annoying and doesn't actually, think about something. Maybe I could do that and have people cheer for me.
It's a good point. And even like a dislikable character that you feel you're like, oh, that guy could do well, or like that guy's not going to go. You're not thinking of the Flat Earther. You're not thinking like that's got fucking legs like to the World Championship. It might do, obviously, but do you know what I mean? It's much easier to think of a character with a ceiling, and it's much easier to think of a heel character with a ceiling. But that's it. When it's with that kind of a thing, it's so much about the charisma and ability of the performer, and it's more having a gimmick that doesn't fuck it up, as opposed to having a gimmick that's really good.
You were making a really good point, but I couldn't help but think Matt Bertha couldn't be a world champion because he can't fly around the world to defend it.
No, he's not going to do that at all, is he?
Yeah.
Excellent. I've got nothing more to say. Just excellent.
Lovely old job.
Oh my god. Those were awful, Josh and Tom.
Terrible. And they've got the power to make them reality. That's what makes it worse.
Yeah, imagine. Maybe that's what this is all... that's why it's all happening.
I've lied. This is actually market research. There's going to be a Riptide training school. We're going to get these gimmicks into practice. Jordan Breaks, talented guy, but we're like, what can we do to him? Sammy the Seagull. That's what he's going to be. Get him coming out in a Brighton Albion football shirt.
Sammy the Seagull.
With a seagull mask on. Going, stealing people's food out of their hands.
Then we'd have to get Roy Johnson down for a grudge match as the big Palace fan that he is.
Good. Well, I'm glad we covered that. But we have got one other special part to this episode. Riptide Deep 6 featured a special ring announcer in the form of Kid Lykos. And I managed to grab a little interview with him, so let's go to that.
Yes.
I'm joined by Kid Lykos.
Hello.
Very first question. Why are you Kid Lykos? When did you become Man Lykos?
Well, I'm 21, so maybe I should be man already. But Dragon Kid in Japan is 40-something. So, and he's still a kid.
Yeah.
Somehow. So I guess it's like the childlike sense of wonder you have. So maybe that's why.
What an excellent answer.
I was
hoping I'd stump you, but it didn't work.
Nah, pulled that out of my bum, right? That's
good. Well, on that same vibe, Monday Lykos, going back.
That's a classic.
Etymologically speaking, that is problem wolf.
Yes.
And you also bill yourself as the problem child of professional wrestling. Why are you a problem child? What's going on?
Well, at the time, I was a piece of shit, quite frankly. I was just that mouthy, gobby kid that talks too much and gets himself in trouble. So I was always causing trouble, especially because I was wrestling in Attack most frequently then. Like, I wasn't about most places like Attack and Fight Club, but the only places taking a chance on me, really. So, like, when I first started doing that, I was just running my mouth in those places, and Chris was helping me back it up in that sense with some sick tag moves.
Well, you're sitting there in your latest Kid Lykos shirt.
I am.
Which I say not to get myself over, but I pre-ordered that a while ago.
That's right. Brother, it's in the post. It's in the post. I spent ages. There was like 180 orders, including hoodies, that I had to like do myself, and it was not fun.
No,
but
that's the price you pay for not putting things online properly.
It's my own fault for doing pre-orders. I should do orders from stock and then pre-pack them. But
my point was going to be, between you and Brooks and CCK, amazing merch. It's always got this weird sort of horror vibe to it. My question to you is that just an aesthetic, or do you like horror?
I like horror. I think Chris is more of the old school horror guy than myself. Like, he, for example, when we were in Madrid, he pure buzzed over finding a pack of trading cards that were just horror movie posters, and he buzzed, like, it was great. And like, they're all like the old Spanish ones as well, so it was crazy. It was really cool. But I like to, when I was younger, like teenager upwards, I was like buzzing off horror. And now I'm like at a weird stage where I realise how they scare me, so I don't like them as much. Because I'm a bit like, you know, when you don't like something, so like if you eat something and you're like, oh, I don't like that, I won't eat that anymore. Where it's like, well, this is just scary, so I'm just not going to watch it anymore, you know what I mean? So I'm at that weird stage where I don't know where to go with it.
You're in a weird stage because you said you're only like your early 20s. So you're a young man technically.
Yeah.
You're also a grizzled veteran on the scene. So
Yes.
you're a weird mix. Of,
It's an odd one.
mature and childish at the same time.
Yeah, that's
Is
the
that
best way
fair?
of putting it. That's the best way of putting it. To be fair.
I'm glad you said that. I thought I might get a slap in the face.
No, 100%.
Let me stick with the horror for a second then.
Yes.
Even if it's not your favourite thing, have you got any particular films you'd watch? Or? We're at your flat. It's your night out. You've said, hey, we're going back to mine to put a film on Netflix. What are you picking?
I don't know, because nowadays, because there's a bunch of horrors coming out on Netflix that I want to try just because there's hype around them.
Mm-hmm.
But, see, I don't even know if it really counts, but I used to really like the Saw franchises. I thought they were clever.
Yep.
I don't know, for me, like, I really like the old Halloween poster, you know, with the pumpkin and the knife.
Yeah.
And it was just like a plain black poster with those little graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all it was. It was very basic.
Mm-hmm.
But I like those sorts of films, so that's what would attract me to those films, like the covers being like that, so I'd watch those ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked Halloween. I'm not one of the people who's like judges things based on remakes and stuff as well, so I like the remakes as well. I've no problem with it. It's still a good horror film. It's just not as good as the other ones. I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but not that's the only remake I would say I don't particularly like. But they're all like the classic answers. I don't know if I'm doing it like saying anything specifically cool. Like Chris would have
they're
a
classics
answer.
for a reason, so
Yeah,
don't worry about
true.
citing them. It's like saying if someone goes, oh, The Rock or Austin, it's like, well, yeah, of course they're your favourites. There's a fucking reason for it.
Yeah, they were great.
I'm going to spin off that though. I have listened to your interview with Jim Smallman a while back, where you picked your top 10 obscure sort of wrestlers or ones to keep an eye on, and you particularly focus on Japanese and Lucha Libre.
Yeah.
You yourself, a masked high flyer. What is it about either? I know this is very broad, but sort of lucha or puro wrestling. But what would you say appeals to you about the idea of a masked wrestler with over the top characterization?
I don't know, just that's what drew me to wrestling originally. Rey Mysterio was the first wrestler. I was like, oh, fuck, that's cool. And then went from there. Like I discovered Delirious in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, another masked wrestler, but he's completely different. And then so on and so forth. And then like the first indie I found was Chikara, which is full of masked wrestlers. So for me, it's such a broad range of characters without needing, like, I guess facials in that sense. You still can, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, understand and relate to these characters, and all their personality traits are still so present that the mask is just like an accentuating feature almost, and it always adds to certain characters. Like, there's a character in Chikara now called Blank. He was a wrestler whose character was that he was very vain and carried a mirror to the ring, and he lost a mask versus hair match or something. But the mask part of it was he had to put on a mask, which is so different. And now his character is like, he's kind of artsy. Like he's like, at first he hated the mask, that was the idea, and now he's kind of artsy and he's going with it almost as like a eccentric persona almost, and putting it in with his vain character, and it's genius. I think masked characters can add so much more to professional wrestling.
Because we've got to speed this interview up, but I did have a whole segment based around how I am impressed with your use of body language based on masked wrestling.
Thank you.
With things like the pissing on people in the corner. Like, it sounds silly, but it's genuine. Hitting people with the cookie sheets. I hear what you're saying, is what I was going to say. But you were here for the first Riptide, you and Brooks.
I was.
You were, and I need to apologise for whoever tried to steal the CZW belts from you. Nothing to do with us, but still.
No, but if you come to a wrestling show, don't steal a belt, especially if it's a belt like that. Like, it's not a belt from England. We couldn't just replace that, like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the CZW tag title. They've had that for 20 years. Yeah, don't be a dick.
And the people who did steal it might not have necessarily known what it was, but CZW as a whole, you wouldn't think that's a promotion to piss off.
Yeah. Zandig's not there anymore, so I guess you won't get mother effing bombed off a roof like Joey Janela, but I mean, you don't want to piss off anyone, a wrestling promoter. They're the craziest of all.
But you were here for the first Riptide, I was going to say,
yes.
And you, the most recent one prior to the one we were recording at Blackwater, you were involved in quite an interesting match with Charlie Evans, Wolf and Ryder Frankenstein.
Yeah.
How did that romance ever work out?
Well, she has a boyfriend. That was the first issue. But I didn't think of, obviously.
You could take him.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Look at him, he's massive, and I've got a broken shoulder again, obviously.
Kick him in the willy.
To be fair. That's his weak point. His Achilles heel. His Achilles willy, as they call it.
I genuinely loved that match. It was, the weird thing is for me, I'm split completely between, I love the most physical, believable styles, like a Bret Hart, a Walter, a Timothy Thatcher, whatever. And I love over-the-top characterisation and wackiness, and that was the aesthetic of that Halloween match.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Incredible. But I loved it.
You've got to have that on a wrestling show. Like, without comedy wrestling, there's no variety. Like, like, look at today's show, for example. Curtis Chapman and Jordan Brace was a great technical match.
Yeah.
And then TK Cooper versus Candy Floss was a great clash of styles in the sense of almost like a bruiser but still a high flyer with TK versus
Power and
a
finesse.
female technical wrestler in Candy Floss. And then so on and so forth. Like, this whole card's a big variety. And then you've always got Session Moth Martina, who's going to be a big comedy character on the show. And you need that variety, otherwise a wrestling show is boring as fuck. Like, no one cares if it's just constant go, go, go. Let's all wrestle the same
You're a
style.
fan of Dragon Gate.
I love Dragon Gate, but that's go, go, go. But everyone's there's variety. Dragon Kid's so different to Naruki Doi in the same sense that they have a character called Shachioko Boy who's a killer whale, and if you grab the top of his mask, he goes all jelly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a comedy character in the same way, like, wrestlers who used to be, like, the big guys of that company, like Dom Fuji and stuff, have taken a step back and become comedy characters and adapted well, and that's why they can wrestle well into their 50s, you know what I mean? Like, wrestling needs variety regardless of style. Like, there can still be a company-based style, but you need the variety within that company-based style.
Well, you definitely need to go, sir. I am going to cut this off here, but I just want to one last question. How are you finding Brighton as a whole?
I like Brighton. They've got a Leon, which is one of my nicest like treats whenever I go to a show. Because Strensham Services got one on one side, but not on the other. So I love stopping at Leon. And then when I got here, I was here quite early. So I went to Leon, had a fucking banging love burger, and came back and I was ready for the show. So I like Brighton. I like staying over after the shows because we all hang out, all the wrestlers hang out, we go to the beach and stuff, and it's a proper event almost. Like, it's a proper day. It's not just, I'll drive to this show, which is far for any Midlands wrestler, and then I'll drive back and I'll be tired. That's it. Like, Brighton's the best to come to and just hang. It's a nice weekend.
Oh, wicked. Well, then I just need to add, there's one place you need to go, given your character and your like of vegan food. You need to go to the Foundry, which has Wolf Kitchen.
Ooh.
Vegan burgers, involving a chili burger, which involves Coca-Cola in the recipe somehow.
Fuck, that sounds great.
There you go.
Well, that's next time. I got to drive back tonight. That sucks. That. No, you told me that. I'm real upset. I should have gone there instead of
Stick
Leon.
with me, mate. I'll take you to Wolf and Gypsy. I'll take you to Wolf and Dagger. There's a lot of wolf things down there.
I'm also down here, and I am King Wolf the first. And anyone who uses the wolf emoji on Twitter should stop because it's mine.
And I thought he did a good job as the ring announcer.
He did a very good job. Yeah, it was nice to hear him talk for a prolonged period and actually have the limelight.
Well, when he was doing the interview, he took his mask off and everything. I was like, I don't need to see this. Don't ruin the illusion, man.
Oh my God! And how was it? Was it horrible? Was he like Two-Face? Did he have horrendous burns, or was he actually incredibly good looking?
I'm not going to ruin any of it.
Okay, fine.
No, it's not for me to ruin what he looks like.
No, fair enough.
Even though he did wrestle without a mask for many years, so it wouldn't be hard for people to work out what he looks like.
Did he take off his mask to reveal another mask?
But no, I do have a soft spot for CCK, and I do think Lykos is a wonderful performer. I think his use of body language to convey comedy, but also sort of the selling of moves, both offensive and defensive, I think is great.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased to get a few minutes of his time, so I just wanted to thank Lykos for that.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a grab him whilst I could moment.
Yeah, and massive props to Riptide again for booking Lykos, because obviously everybody knows that he's injured again, unfortunately. He's had a rough time, but Riptide have done that a few times in the past, haven't they? They did that with Eddie Dennis when they got him down.
He was running the bar.
Yeah, I think they are aware that these guys, when they get injured, obviously their opportunities to work and make money suffer. So it's really cool that they get them involved. But he did a good job. But yeah, Kid Lykos did a great job. But I very much looking forward to Rosa coming down, because I think she has been doing a great job and just getting better and better with every show. And I know she will have been gutted to miss it.
And even though she hasn't been the only ring announcer in the past,
of course,
she really feels like she's made it her own. I did kind of miss her, actually.
Yeah,
miss her presence.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we have to wrap up here.
Yes.
The end of the first after party. How do you feel? Hungover? Tired?
Absolutely buzzing.
Like any after party.
Ready to go again. Yeah. I'm just going to go back home and watch every single Riptide show as I await the next episode.
Well, you should watch the Rumble back. It'll get you ready for the next one. And also, you'll see a wonderful bit of editing involving 2 Meter Peter and Chapman.
Okay.
That's all I want to say.
Interesting.
It's very cool. Very cool.
I will definitely do that. Yeah. Yeah. But it's been a real pleasure, and obviously we hope that everybody has enjoyed this. This is the first episode. Things will get better.
Yes, yeah.
We can edit another bit in here. Josh and Tom, did you think we did a great job?
Yes, mate.
Yeah.
That is so kind. Honestly,
wonderful.
you shouldn't have said that. Thank you.
I can't believe they agreed to the pay rise.
Yeah,
I appreciate
amazing.
that.
You're getting paid.
Do you want to promote anything other than Hardest Part, which I think has been done?
One other thing I want to promote, I've talked about it on the last couple of podcasts that we have done. Pod Bible is a new magazine that I've been working on with Scroobius Pip, who was at Riptide.
He was.
On Friday and loved it. That was his first show. We were talking about that last night and he thought it was awesome. I've been making a magazine with him and a guy called Stuart Whiffin. And it is basically a magazine all about podcasts. Recommends a variety of different podcasts, reviews old episodes, interviews podcasters. We gave out loads of copies of it in London, but the digital release is now available to view. So if you go to podbiblemag.com, you can read that. The next issue is coming out in April, and we're open for submissions, basically. So if you want to recommend a particular podcast, even if you wanted to write something about podcasts, what they mean to you, why You Total Cult shouldn't end. If you write that, then we're not going to include it. But yeah, just get involved. It's Pod Bible on all social media, at Pod Bible, and it's a new venture and it's all very exciting.
Well, you might get a letter not written by me, but signed by D. Brooke from Ireland.
Can't wait.
I have nothing to promote, really. I just, honestly, it's not self-aggrandising. If you do want to listen to any of the interviews from You Total Cult, so Spike Gervais, TK Cooper, there was a whole Riptide special, actually, from the 3-day tournament last August.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested in any of these people, you can go on youtotalcult.co.uk and they're on there. Or it's on iTunes, it's on Acast. But they really are going to, when I close my site, which is where all the pods are being hosted currently, they're going to disappear off other sources. So if you do want to listen to them, download them now, just to be safe.
That's nice. That's going to get people interested in limited time, quick, before they're not available anymore.
I love to say it's all punk rock and that's what it's all about. Yeah, it's limited, that's what makes it special. But no, I've had too much to deal with.
But I'm going to confirm that Riptide special was very, very good, as are the other interviews that I've listened to as well. So do check them out.
I think that might have had a hand in me getting this job.
Yeah, I think so.
Other than that, they're just sick of me saying every time, sorry guys, do you mind if I just hang backstage for a bit?
Yeah.
Will you fuck off? Give this man a badge. Just get him out of our hair.
Good stuff. And thanks to everybody for listening. And tune in again next time on
Riptide the Afterparty.
Riptide the Afterparty.